Hello, good morning, and welcome to part 4 of my story slash testimony. So, as I stated in the last video, the security guard buzzed me, and by the time I got back to her, she said it was nothing. Which, as I said, even though she said it was nothing, it was something. The next morning, I woke up and during the day everything was sort of okay, but it wasn't okay. I saw the security guard, and we started talking, and she started saying to me, she started asking me questions about the night before, like was I sleeping, stuff like that. And I'm telling her, when you buzzed the intercom, you actually woke me up. So what had actually happened was this: the lady upstairs claimed at that time, that early time in the morning, when my daughter and I were fast asleep, that we were making noise. And not only were we making noise, we were very loud at that. She ended up calling the police to file a noise complaint. And through all of this, as I said, my daughter and I are fast asleep in bed. Since being there, my daughter and I has never had a complaint from anybody. Except one time when my daughter was stomping and crying on uncontrollable, and somebody came from below us and said, hey, your daughter woke up my daughter, and I apologized. And that was the end of it, because that person said, oh, it's you. Because they've seen us in the hallway. People see us all the time in the hallways, elevator, and whatever. And sometimes we struck up conversations with people and we say hi. And when she saw that it was us, she said, you know what? I'm not going to file a complaint. I understand. And that was the end of that. Besides that, nobody could ever say that I was rude and disrespectful to them, or Lily did something. Everybody loved us. And even all the workers, I would joke around with all the workers. I would see them and we'd hold conversations, and whenever they came into the unit to do anything, they could come in and do what they needed to do, and there was no issues. So there we are, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, yeah, she called the police last night. This is what the security is telling me. And when she came down to talk to the police, and the police is asking her what's going on, and she's talking about the noise. And the police said, so who's making the noise? And the security personnel said to the police, she's the one that's making the noise. But anyway, they had to ask me if I was making any noise and stuff like that. And I laughed because I was like, I'm leaving in about 2 days, and it's now you decide you're going to call the cops on me for something I'm not doing. And as I said, this was somebody that they moved all around the building. They moved her probably 6 times, 6 times they moved her around in the building. And everywhere she went, she had a complaint. She had a complaint about the person that was next door to her. She had a complaint about the person that was above her and below her. And as I said, if I'm below you, I am going to hear all your walking up and down, your whatever noise you're making, I'm going to hear it. But since I'm below you, if I drop anything on the floor, you're not going to hear me drop anything on the floor. If I'm walking, you're not even going to hear me walking, because I am not walking over your head. So we stayed there for the extra 2 days, and they were going to bring me into a meeting. They were going to call me into a meeting, but they said, you know what? It makes no sense. And also, during this time, the bathroom that we're using in our units started to leak. And it was weird. The lady above me, the one that was giving trouble, had a leak and did not report that she had a leak. So my bathroom started to leak. And I told them that the bathroom was leaking. But the bathroom was so bad and this place was so old, I heard this place was around since the 50s, that mold started to grow in the bathroom. And when I say mold, I mean mold, and even mushrooms started to grow. And they had to come and fix the issue. So they had to go upstairs to her apartment first, fix the issue in her apartment, then come down to fix the issue in our apartment. And they were thinking of maybe we should move you guys. But then they're like, oh, you're leaving soon, so it makes no sense we move you. But the situation was horrible. Horrible. And as I spoke in an earlier video about the roaches, I mean, the roaches were so bad that at nighttime, if I felt like, you know what, I wanted to take an extra bath at night, I couldn't take an extra bath because the roaches were so much in the tub that I didn't want to go in there and take a bath. And eventually they did fix the bathroom. My daughter and I stayed there. As I said, it wasn't the best situation. It wasn't the most comfortable. But we made do with what we had. We made good of a bad situation. And we never complained to anybody and said, oh my gosh, look at the filth, you guys need to clean. We never. We just stayed there because I knew that this was a temporary solution. And as I said, I did everything that they asked me. If I had to bring in a paperwork, I brought it in as quickly as possible. If they said they wanted a medical, I got the medical done as quickly as possible. They never had to ask me twice for anything. And if they said, oh, did you give me the paper? I said, I already gave you the paper. And they would check and they would see that I already gave them the paper. So my daughter and I stayed there from April of 2021 to May of 2022. And it was these two shelters gave me different perspective, different meaning. They opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I was still grateful because here I am in this situation, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing what to do. But I was totally dependent on God. Because during this time, I wasn't working. So there was no way I could have said, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm going to find a place on my own. None of that. So here we are in May. And I get the news that my prayers have been answered. And I get the news that the prophecy that was given to me in January came through. The Bible says that the way you know a true prophet or prophetess is whatever they prophesy to you, if it comes true, then you know they're true. If it doesn't come true, then you know they're lying. They're telling a big lie. I got a call from one of the housing specialists, and she said, we got you a place. I filled out all the necessary paperwork, did everything that I was asked to do, and we went to look at the place. I had said to God, God, I don't want to move from this area because my daughter's school is like 20 minutes away by bus. And if I had to move, it would have been harder for us. And we'd have to change bus routes. And I like the area because there's so many things. There's so many shops, so many restaurants. Basically, anything you could think of is in this area. And this area that I live in is called Jamaica, Queens. And everything you could think of is in Jamaica, Queens. You want to go to a Jamaican restaurant, you want Chinese, you want to buy clothes, shoes, you want to go to the doctor, the trains, the buses, everything are here. So it's really convenient for us. And that's one of the prayers I had. God, we don't want to leave this neighborhood. We want to leave this shelter, but we don't want to leave the neighborhood. And so I went, signed the lease for the place. I went, did everything that they requested, put in all the proper documents, got to view an apartment, but still didn't know when I was going to leave. Still didn't know when I was going to leave. And as I said before, they had requested a moving truck for a certain day, and that day when I was supposed to leave, we never left because the moving truck couldn't come. And on top of that, the ending of the month was coming, and I had stuff in storage. So because the government knew that I was supposed to be moving, that stuff that was in storage, if it had stayed until the other month, I would have to now go back to the government and say, hey, I need you guys to cover my storage fees again. But they would have looked at me like, but didn't you move? You told us you moved. And I would have to cover that storage cost. And I didn't know what was going to happen. So there I was. Yes, I'm supposed to leave. The movers canceled that day. Don't know when they're coming the next time. And I have all this stuff in storage. That's already paid for the month of May. But if June caught us, we'd have to pay for the month of June. So, again, it went to trusting God, seeing what God was going to do, and holding on to his promises. And I'm not going to lie, during all of this, I had moments where I doubted God. I had moments where I was like, God, I think it was better we stayed where we were. I think it was better I stayed in a relationship that was doing me no good. I had those thoughts because I was like, look where I was. Look where I'm at. I'm not in a place I could call my own, but I'm in a shelter with my child. And it broke my heart. And so there were times I really questioned God and was like, God, are you serious? And even though I knew that I was the one that didn't listen to God, and I was the one that said, you know what, God, in a sense, I don't care what you're saying. This is the relationship I want, and this is what I'm going to stick with. And yes, there were times when it was bad, and I would pray and I would fast, and I saw no changes. And based on how things were going, I knew God wanted me to leave. But even though I left, I questioned myself because of the situation I ended up in. The story continues. Stay tuned for part